My story begins when I was 11 years old. My mom insisted that I should learn guitar because my older brother played guitar. The problem was that I hated it. I hated how much it hurt my fingers. I hated trying to coordinate my left hand on the fretboard while keeping rhythm with my right hand. Nothing about it felt natural to me, so I quit. Not long after, my brother came home with a keyboard. Along with it, he had a notebook filled with drawings of chord shapes. He had written out chords like C major, F major, G major, A minor, and so on, along with the songs they belonged to. Out of curiosity, I sat down and started following the drawings. Something clicked instantly. For the first time, learning an instrument felt natural. Nobody had to force me to practice. I wanted to learn. A short time later, my brother came home with a bass guitar. I tried it once and I immediately fell in love with it. From that moment on, bass guitar became my main instrument. I spent countless hours watching YouTube tutorials, learning bass techniques, practicing grooves, and even teaching myself how to slap bass. Before long, I became a solid bass player and started playing regularly at church. By the age of 12, I was already involved in church music ministry. We formed a band and started playing at church services, evangelistic campaigns, crusades, youth programs, and various community events. Music had become a major part of my life. When I entered high school, I met a friend, and one of our teachers happened to be a local artist here in Belize. Through him, I was introduced to FL Studio 9. He gave us a copy on a flash drive, and from that moment I opened FL Studio, I was fascinated. I thought to myself, I need to learn how this works. What started as curiosity quickly became an obsession. Between ages of 13 to 17, I spent almost all of my free time learning everything I could learn about music production and audio engineering. I wanted to record my keyboard, I wanted to record my bass, I wanted to understand how professional recordings were made. So I started learning about gain staging, recording techniques, EQ, compression, speaker systems, drum miking, guitar amp miking, mixing, mastering, and everything audio topic I could find. If I wasn't at school, doing homework, or helping with chores, I was sitting in my room on a cheap laptop that was barely staying alive. I would spend hours researching, experimenting, watching tutorials, and making music. At the time, I was heavily into electronic music and dubstep production.
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
I wasn't just learning theory, I was applying it every day for years. Then at age 17, things started changing at church. The band slowly started falling apart. One member moved to another part of the country, and others got married. Some moved on to different stages of life. Little by little, the band disappeared. I stayed at church and became the only musician. Because there was no one else to play with, I then switched to the keyboard. Since I wasn't playing bass regularly anymore, many of the advanced techniques I had worked on so hard to learn slowly faded away. I'm still a good bass player today, but I'm not as sharp as I used to be when I played constantly. Then 2020 arrived. COVID changed everything. During the lockdown period, I moved from the mainland to the island, where I still live today. When churches were eventually allowed to reopen, strict attendance limits were in place. Our church held 2 separate services every Sabbath. The first service ran from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and the second service ran from 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. My mom was in charge of leading song service and I was a musician. We would stay for the first service and then only participate in the song service for the second service, and then leaving so that we wouldn't take limited seating. Around that time, the elder who normally operated the sound system wasn't always available. One day I stepped in. I already understood theory because of everything I had learned in FL Studio and music production. So I turned on the mixer, set the gains, made small EQ adjustments, and ensured everything sounded decent. Honestly, I didn't enjoy it as much at first. It was simply something that needed to be done. That changed in 2022. Our pastor asked if my mom and I would be willing to help with music during an evangelistic series. We agreed. On the very first night, they needed someone to set up the sound system because nobody really knew how to do it. So I stepped in. I connected the XLR cables, positioned the speakers, and set up the system. Everything worked fine. The sound was okay. For the first time, I realized something important. I actually enjoyed this. Then came 2024. A pastor arrived on the island to conduct a 2-week evangelistic series, and I found myself responsible for most of the music and audio setup. At the time, I didn't call myself a sound engineer. I was simply helping wherever I could. Every evening, I would arrive around 5 p.m. to set up the sound system. We had a pair of EV ZLX 15s for front of house, and a pair of Gemini passive speakers as stage monitors for the pastor and guest speakers. We had 2 singers, a guitar player, myself on bass, and my brother on drums using a keyboard since we didn't have a drum set. This was the first time I really applied everything I had learned over the years. I knew what frequencies to cut out and what to boost. So I started mixing with intention, and it sounded pretty good. Like, really good. People began complimenting the audio. The event was also being streamed live on Facebook. That was the moment I realized something. Maybe I was actually good at this. I already understood audio inside of a DAW. I understood plugins, mixing, and processing. What I needed now was real-world experience with live systems. And for the first time, I started seriously considering sound engineering as something more than just a hobby. Later that year, my mom and I attended the Fade FM program after not attending for nearly 5 years. When we arrived, I immediately noticed the sound system needed help. People kept asking me to fix the audio, but at the same time, I kept saying, I'm not the sound guy, and I didn't want to interfere. Still, they insisted there was a problem. Eventually, I was given permission to step in and make adjustments. So I did, and I improved it a lot. But it still wasn't enough. Not because I didn't know what to do, but because I didn't have full control of the system. The speaker placement wasn't ideal, the microphones were poorly positioned, and there was no proper system tuning or alignment. I was constantly finding the limitation of the setup. After that experience, I spoke with the president of Fade FM, who I'm friends with, and I told him, next year, you don't need to worry about the sound system. I'll take care of it. That was a turning point. In 2025, I built my own system. At first, I started with the Behringer XR32, but I expanded everything around it. I built a rock system, added a Rockville RP16 amplifier, a Debra ST202 UHF in-ear monitor system, a Phoenix Pro PTU 7000 microphone system, and a pair of dual 15-inch Rockville speakers. For the first time, I had a complete system I understood from input to output. No guessing, no fighting bad infrastructure, just consistent sound. By November, everything was running smoothly. Then in January of this year, we had another major program in Cayo. This time, I had friends who understood audio, helping me on the team. The system held up, the mix was stable, and for the first time, I could focus more on shaping the sound instead of fixing problems. Even before those events, I had already been invited to make smaller programs, set up systems, and assist with the live audio work. Then, later this year, I was entrusted with the live stream mix for a major event in Belize featuring Pastor Doug Batchelor. Looking back, I realized something important. I had been preparing for this moment since I was 12 years old. I was learning how to mic guitars, bass, drums. I was studying EQ, compression, limiting, gain staging, parallel compression, and many different mixing techniques. Not because I knew I would become a sound engineer, but because I was curious about recording music. That curiosity became my foundation. So when I finally had real equipment in my hands, it wasn't overwhelming. I already knew what I was listening for. I knew what sounded muddy or harsh. I knew how to create space in the mix. So stepping into live sound wasn't starting from zero. It was applying years of theory in real time. Looking back now, I realized I didn't suddenly become a sound engineer. I grew into it, slowly, from the moment I started asking questions about sound. Everything after that was just practice, and that's really the story. A long one, maybe even an unexpected one, but it's mine. And if it was worth listening to, I'm glad you did. So yeah, that's the video. Feel free to share your story in the comments. Tell us how you became a church musician or even a sound engineer. Also, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and I will be posting more videos in the future as I try to grow my channel again. So once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.